From India, we want to go back to Dr. Ombeva Malande, who is a vaccine specialist and a pediatrician. I hope now we can get you clearly. Initially, you were taking us through the efficacy of this AstraZeneca vaccine and the side effects. Please continue.
Thank you so much. What I was clarifying earlier is that I needed to mention that all the 5 vaccines that are so far given approval for use. So you are talking about the vaccine by Pfizer together with the BioNTech, the vaccine by Moderna, which is one of those companies that make the vaccine. Then there is AstraZeneca, which was made by AstraZeneca and Oxford University. The vaccine is called Covishield, which is the one we are using. And then there is the Sputnik vaccine from Russia. And finally, the vaccine by Johnson & Johnson, which is called, their subsidiary called Janssen, which makes vaccines. So there are 5. All these vaccines went through a particular phases of approval. The FDA, which really kind of monitors and gives approval to all vaccines and even drugs that are used and poisons. What they did is that they set a particular criteria that these companies had to satisfy, all of them and any other company that desires to make a vaccine. So they gave them only 3 conditions, but those conditions are quite stringent. Because one was that they have to show that for the people who they tried the vaccine in, about 50%, half of them were protected from contracting the disease. So that actually means, or dying from the disease. That actually means 50% effectiveness, not efficacy, effectiveness. And then the other thing that they needed to show is that when they gave these people the vaccine, because the vaccine is given as 2 doses, the first dose and then the second dose, you got to follow up the second dose 60 days. Somebody receives the dose and then you follow them up for 60 days to see if they got any harm or not. And the third thing that was important that was supposed to be done is that, because when this study was being done, in the 3rd phase of the study, because the study goes through 4 different phases, in the 3rd phase, they were supposed to show that in the people who did not get the vaccine, because some people are given the vaccine and some were not given the vaccine, something like, let's say, water for injection, which won't harm you, it's harmless completely, you know, like the one they use in hospitals. Among those ones, at least 5 were supposed to contract severe COVID disease. Each of these vaccines has satisfied that. They were asked for 50%, they found way above that. The particular Covishield vaccine that we're talking about, initially, the initial studies put it at between 60 and 90%. And then the final analysis of the results that came out 2 weeks ago put it at a close to 100% in terms of saving people from severe disease. That means if you got COVID and you had gotten this vaccine, if you came in touch, you are unlikely to get sick to the point where you will need to be admitted or need to be put in ICU or become breathless, you know, things like those. So that means the vaccine is really effective. And so all these vaccines are effective. And the concerns that are being raised by the companies that you talked about, the countries that you talked about, Iceland, Denmark, Norway, Italy, Romania, among others in Europe, their concerns are actually not about the effectiveness of the vaccine, no. Their concerns were that they observed some particular effects. One of the patients in Denmark was found to have clots in the body, and they were wondering, these blood clots that they are seeing, would they be related to the vaccine or not? And so they temporarily, really, as a precautionary measure, decided to halt the vaccine administration to first check and see, is there a problem or not? And again, remember, this is a routine procedure. It's a routine procedure. What happens is that once the vaccine has been given out, it has to be monitored. This is called phase 4 post-licensure monitoring. Once the license has been given, the vaccines are being used, they have to continuously be monitored for if anybody gets any adverse event of any kind. If you got the vaccine yesterday and today you fall in your bathroom, that is reported. If you got the vaccine yesterday and today morning you get confused, that's reported. If you get slurred speech, that's reported. If you get memory loss, so it's not just the usual, but anything that happens within 60 days from getting your vaccine has to be monitored. And that's what happened. So it's been stopped for about 2 weeks, very precautionary, but it's important to emphasize the body that deals with looking at safety of vaccines and drugs in Europe, the body that monitors that, together with SAGE, which is another body for the WHO that meets every 2 weeks to advise on whatever is happening around COVID vaccines, they've all said that the vaccines are still safe.
All right.
And this is purely precautionary.
Okay, and you know, Kenya began the vaccination process last week, Friday. It's now 1 week, and still many Kenyans are asking, Why should I get the jab if I'm still at risk of getting the virus? Maybe you can tell us more about that.
Yeah, so Kenya started the giving the vaccines last week, and they've started with healthcare workers. And once we are done with healthcare workers, we are going to move to people who have pre-existing conditions. And then after that, we'll move on to the elderly, people above 50 years. And then after that, continually graduate as we move to security forces, teachers, and then the people in hospitality industry. And we keep going up and up until when we'll have vaccinated the substantial numbers in the community. So the point is that these vaccines, the difference between vaccines and drugs, we give medication to people who are sick. Once you have the disease, you get medication. But vaccines are given to people who are normal and healthy. And that's why we have to give you the vaccine, because it has to protect you from getting the disease, or if you get the disease, it protects you from progressing on to very severe form of the disease where you need to be put in ICU or admitted for very many days. So that's why you need to get it. Everyone who is qualified, if you are in the group that is qualified to receive the vaccine, I strongly urge you to get it, because you never know how you will turn out. Nobody knows how they will turn out with the COVID. Some people get it and they have died. Others get it and they survived. So you really never know how it will turn out when you get the disease. It's advisable that when the vaccine is there, get it. And don't choose. Some people say, me, I want the Pfizer one, me, I want the Moderna one. No, when you get the vaccine, the one you get, please get it.
Okay, that's a very good place to end it. Thank you very much, Dr. Ombeva Malande, a vaccine specialist and also a pediatrician, for taking time to just debunk some of those issues regarding the AstraZeneca vaccine. Well, that's how we wrap things up here on News Desk. Thank you very much for joining us. I am Ashley.